I am amazing. I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just doing. I'm excited to be here though. This is exciting. It's like my highlight of the week, but it's school.
I know you text me talking about happy Elevate and Relate Day.
I did. Yes. So, welcome everyone to Elevate and Relate, a collaborative conversation for the like-minded and like-minded individuals. I am Jazzy Meadows. If you don't know me, light worker and channeler and all things love, light, and learning. And my soul twin friend here is.
My name is Nina Carr. I am a transformational behavioral coach and basically a persuasive brand strategist. So my forte is the mind. I do all things mind. I help people market with the mind and also reach their potential with the mind.
Yes. And today, what we are going to be discussing is the Lighthouse Energy, what it means to be the strong friend or that go to energy healer, and how we can empower our loved ones' change while staying in our own lane. So, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, I'm excited because I feel like this is such a necessary conversation. Like,
Yes.
seriously, because how many times do we, be this friend?
Right, right. And everyone's always coming to you, asking you what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And sometimes it does get it gets overpowering and draining, because you're always that go-to friend. So you never have time to kind of like offload before you out there solving another problem. Yes.
I have dealt with that. I can relate. That's why I'm glad we're talking about this because, as you guys know, this is something that we talk about because we're going through it, right? So these are some things, and the steps that we're going to talk about are steps that we are going to talk about because we are going through it. We are doing all the things that we're telling you to do. So,
Yeah.
in this episode, we are going to dive deep in a conversation about what it means to be the strong friend or the energy for healing friend, or as I call it, the pro bono therapist. Okay, the therapist that is out here changing lives for free. Okay, the
Correct.
person that everyone comes to when they're going through a life change. Okay, so the takeaway for tonight will essentially be how to be the light in someone else's storm without weathering the storm with them. That is where we got the analogy, the lighthouse analogy of you can show them the light, but they still got to do the rowing and do the work to find their way. All right. So, being the light beings that we are, we will explore this from both a psychological standpoint, the brain perspective, which is moi, and then also a spiritual perspective, which is Jazzy. She is going to talk about it from an energetic standpoint. So let's start off. So let's have a conversation about what is the strong friend.
Yes, let's get into that. What does that mean? What does it mean to be the strong friend? What is a strong friend to you? What is that definition? So when I think about the strong friend and what that means to me, it's I feel like it's essentially, and it was something that is so funny because when we're talking about it, I was like, dang, I never even thought about what a strong friend is because I'm that person all the time, right? But I think, a strong friend to me, a definition would be somebody who's always there, who has all the answers, right? Who knows what to do even in those most difficult and most challenging situations or circumstances, that just know, or the ones who can be tempered even through the most chaotic of situations. For me, I know that that's kind of something that I have mastered. Even though I'm panicking all on the inside, it's like y'all will never know. So it's one of those things that I have learned and I have mastered. And I think when you talk about the strong friend, it's the one that may appear strong all the time because they don't show all the facets of the things that they're going through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also remember, guys, when we're talking about this, this is a collaborative conversation, meaning that if you are live and you are tuning in, we want to hear from you because, as we said before, this is something that we're going through, and it's probably something you're going through, or else you wouldn't be tuning in trying to get some tips. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what the strong friend is. So we will kick it off. And for me, the strong friend is just, like you said, somebody that is just the go-to for everything. The person that they feel has it. Like the person that people feel like, okay, well, you know what? If anybody's okay, it's going to be her or him or whatever. It's that person that everybody counts on when they're going through their stuff that's going to hold everybody together. They're the glue. They're the people that are always going to be there. The people that are always, someone that people can count on, that if something goes wrong, it's going to be that person. I always visualize it as someone standing and somebody behind them holding that just in case you fall, I'm going to catch you and I'm going to push you up. But the question is, who is there to stand in place for you, right? And that's where it becomes a problem, because we do a lot of, waiting for somebody to fall, but who's there for us, right? So the next question is, why do you feel like you need one? Like, why do we feel like we need a strong friend? What do you think?
So I feel like sometimes we need that strong friend. I feel like that the need is there in our minds because we're not capable ourselves. We haven't mastered what it is to be our own strength, our own pillar, right?
Yeah.
And you usually are not your own pillar when you're struggling with trusting yourself, right? Sometimes we don't trust ourselves to be our own pillar. So we look to somebody else and say, oh, I need you to do X, Y, and Z because I don't feel like I'm able to in my own stuff.
Right.
And so I think it's really assessing what that need is. And when you start really looking at yourself and saying, okay, this is what I can give myself. When we're so busy giving out to so many people, we don't realize how to love on our own and how to actually be our own pillar of strength. And so I feel like the need is always there because we don't see it within ourselves.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because a lot of times the strong friend is the person that people aspire to be, the person that they assume, heavy on the assume, has it all together. And it's like, she got it. So sometimes people operate as if, okay, that person has it. Yes, that's somebody I can count on, but that's also somebody I can dump on, right? Because they can handle it. They're okay. They're always okay because that person usually never shows any emotions. That person never shows any weaknesses. That person never shows when they are not okay because they are conditioned to be okay. And that's the person that they count on, as we said, to be strong, or that person to always have, good advice. And sometimes people are that way naturally, sometimes not, but that's how it happens. So, yeah, we kind of talked about it, but we talked about like what purpose does a strong friend serve in your life? And it's basically, like we said, that pro bono therapist, that person that's always going to be there to support you, the person that always says the right things and does the right things, and that everyone knows that, they're good, Yes. And that's, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that last point that I was going to ask is, what is it? Why can't you be your strong friend? What is it within you that makes you feel like you can't be strong for you? And I think that's like one of the things that really, for me, gets me really thinking, like, why can't I give this to myself? Because a lot of times, and again, I think this goes back to like not having that trust in yourself to say, I can be my own. I could be my own lighthouse, right? I could be my own lighthouse in my own storm. And a lot of times we feel like we need that external validation. We need to hear it from somebody else in order for it to be true. That's what I have found. I don't know, Nana, what you think?
No, that's pretty much it.
That's it.
Yeah, because we always feel like, other people, because I always say it's like, because when we think deep about ourselves and what we have to offer ourselves, all we see is flaws. All we see is things that we're doing wrong. All we see is things we can improve on. All we see is a bunch of things that are not productive. You know what I mean? But then you have that friend that seems to always have it together. And it's like, you know what? Not only will you, deal with your stuff, but take mine too. And I feel like a lot of it is not malicious, because sometimes we take it as if it's malicious, but I feel like people just need someone, right? And if you have that energy about you, if you have that healing energy, if you have that, charisma, it's like the downside of having charisma. It's like the downside of being, as you are a wordsmith and being able to say things in such an eloquent way that calms people. Like, that's a real thing.
It is. And you know what the thing about it is, it's not that it's wrong to be that way. You just have to be mindful of how much of it you can give out. Because I think ultimately sometimes we get so caught up in wanting to solve the problem for the person or take it away because either we've been there, we done did it, got the t-shirt, we know, or it's basically like you can see, you have that panoramic view because you're like, oh, okay, I know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And you can see an area that they haven't been able to see yet. And so it's just in you sometimes to want to just take it from them and say, okay, look, see, I can shoulder it for you. But we have to be mindful that in doing that, right, you perpetuate a cycle of being that strong friend, of being that go-to, and then you also diminish the power of the person being enabled to do it themselves, to say, hey, I'm strong now, I can do this, I overcame this and now I can do this,
Right.
you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
it's a twofold, you know, it's like a very intricate dance you have to do.
Yes, absolutely. And those in the audience, hey y'all, hey, hello Tanya,
Hello.
we're like unique 368687. If you want to join the conversation and let us know what you think a strong friend is, please do so, because it is very important that if you are tuning into this, that this is a conversation and that we are all talking to each other.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So,
It's time to break it down.
all right. So, so the thing is, there are two subsets almost. So most of the time, I feel like when you are in a position where you're the strong person, strong friend, go-to healer, it's, you know, all the things. Ultimately, there's usually a walk where it may be innately part of who you are. It may be a part of your calling, which is why it comes naturally to you. You know, there's kind of two subsets. One where this is part of who you are and what you want to do, or it's more where it's like, you know what, I kind of want to pivot away from that. I really don't want it, but somehow it's just stuck. It's just I don't know how to detach from that. And so I want to give you guys some pointers from a spiritual or energetic side or standpoint of ways that you can actually break it down on protecting your peace through someone else's process, right? Because it's definitely something that you have to practice. Otherwise, you get sucked in very easily because people start coming at you with everything, and you'll be like, "Wait a minute, I'm trying to figure some stuff out on my own here." So, so what I want to do is break it down in a spiritual or energetic sense. Be mindful that you don't have to be super hyper spiritual to follow these steps or to have the insight or foresight. It's really just for you to have something in your back pocket so that you can utilize it, because we're all energy. And you know, I will not go on my tangent on all of our frequencies, but however, we are all energy, and so therefore we want to make sure that we are vibing at a frequency that is in alignment with us, so that we can actually walk in our purpose without disrupting our process. So the first thing, there are 4 pointers that I have. And the first one is when you're protecting your peace while trying to help someone through their process, ask yourself, it's like, I call it this mini assessment, right? So it's a small mini thing of questions, 3 questions. Does this person need to hear this? Because sometimes people ain't ready. People are not in a space to receive what you're about to give. So therefore, you're expending all this energy and investing in someone who's not even absorbing what you're putting out. The second thing is, does this person need to hear it from me? Are you the right person? Because sometimes, even though you're the go-to person, sometimes they want you to validate. They don't want you to give them voice of reason. So you have to assess where your energy is coming from and how it's going to be given off, because otherwise it won't be received. And then you get into that whole cycle of they keep coming to me asking me for the same advice, but they're not taking it. Okay, so you want to make sure, can this person hear what I have to give off? And then the next question is, does this person need to hear this right now? Are they in the mental capacity to even hear and receive what you're trying to say? And so once you take stock of those 3 questions, those things are going to allow you to know, okay, what type of conversation can I have? Can I have those conversations? Can I do that? You know, and once you do those 3 things, that'll prompt you to go to the next thing. Another thing that you can do is you facilitate those questions, right? What is the end goal? Sometimes I have people come to me and they're like, you know, everything's not working out the way it's supposed to go. This isn't happening. My world's about to end. Oh,
not about to end.
the whole thing about to end. The whole thing.
That's the way they make it seem.
They do. They be like, oh Lord. It'd be like Apocalypse 1.0.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you got to be like, okay, but you did say you want more time. You did say you had a book to write. You did, you know, so sometimes you have to actually be a facilitator of the real life mindset shift. And by doing that, all you do is really just ask questions. You're literally asking them questions. If someone's coming to you with their catastrophe, like, oh my gosh, you come to them and you go, so, okay, and what if, this is when the what ifs will work. What if, what if it works out?
Yeah.
What if you have more time? What if, and then you allow that person to sit and marinate with that, honestly, because as long as they're sitting and marinating with how that is going to come together for them, now they're doing the work. Now they're doing the thinking. All you did was just give these little nudges. What if this? What if that? It's just little prompts, because you don't need to be fully invested in something. You don't need to weather a storm, right? That's not meant for you. But it doesn't mean sometimes you won't get wet in the process. You may get a little bit wet, but you don't got to weather the whole storm. So sometimes facilitating with asking them questions sometimes is really helpful, because it allows, the other person to start to think through their own problems or their own challenges without you having to go through it. And then the third thing is you want to visualize the outcome, right? Visualize the outcome with them. There's two things that can happen out of the catastrophic thing, right? And that catastrophic thing is either what's the worst that can happen, and then you let them narrate the worst of whatever's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or what's the best that can happen, and you let them narrate the best of what could happen. And then you tell them which one sounds better, and then you go with whatever one sounds better. If you operate as if things are rigged in your favor at all times, then chances are you're not going to have the mindset that, oh my gosh, my world is ending tomorrow. So these are some of the things that I think are super important. And then the very last thing is to stay grounded, okay? Because people are going to come to you, okay? Your urgency is not my emergency. So if you come at me with all of this chaotic energy, I'm not going to just fizzle and go with the chaos too. I have to stay grounded, because that's the important part with you. You don't want your vibrations to be wavered because someone else came to you with their chaotic energy, that they need to be grounded as well. So you want to be mindful of those things, because ultimately you're really, really going to help that other person without you impacting how you are feeling in the process. So the 4 things that I put was a mini assessment, right? You want to have a mini assessment. Does this person need to hear it? Do they need to hear it from me? Do they need to hear it right now? The second thing is facilitate the questions. Give them prompts of their mindset shift. Help them facilitate their own mindset shifting. And then you want them to visualize their end goal. What does that outcome look like? What are the 2 options that you can have? Give them 2 options and let them narrate those 2 options. And then lastly, stay grounded in the process. And that will really help to keep your energy at a vibe that you want it at, and not be disrupted because someone came to you with their chaos. Yes.
Absolutely. And of course, as we are, my answers are pretty similar, but
of course. So twin.
I'm going to take it a step further. So basically, a little background between me and Jazzy. Jazzy is the spiritual expert. I'm the brain person. And the thing I love the most about spirituality and in essence, or things like that, is that it's very much so aligned with the brain. Like, how the brain functions, how we love, how we actually, deal with problems is essentially, it's all the same. So basically, I'm going to take what she just said, I'm going to break it down further in ways that you can actually, implement it a little more, give me some different verbiage. But I'm also going to add my little razzle dazzle to it too. Absolutely. So Naomi said, I love the idea of them narrating their own best and worst outcomes, just being a guide. Guide is the operational word here. Absolutely. You have to stop being the facilitator and all this other stuff and be the guide. The beauty of the lighthouse analogy is that you're standing firm in where you are and you're showing them the light. But as we know, with a lighthouse, as you're showing the light, they still have to row to get where they need to go. Oh, that wasn't supposed to rhyme, but so I'm going to break down some I don't want to say like brain hacks, because it's not essentially brain hacks. However, it is some ways that you can kind of use your brain and their brain functions to be able to create those boundaries that need to be in place to be able to be the strong friend safely, because as we said, sometimes being the strong friend or the pro bono therapist, the pro bono healer, whatever, is your calling. Because I think that's the case for me and her. We can't help it because that's just who we are. That's why we were placed on this planet. So we have to, answer your calling, but that doesn't mean that you have to do so at the expense of yourself. So I'm going to talk about some ways that you can do it from a brain perspective and a mindset perspective, to be able to create those boundaries to put in place to safely be who you are. So the first thing I want to talk about is the difference between being able and being resourceful. All right. Because you can be able, right? And you can say, I have $100 and you need 97, but you're only going to have $3 left, right? You can say, I have a home you can stay at, but only have a 1-bedroom and somebody needs to stay there. Yes, I have the space, but does that mean that you need to be in this space? Am I going to be able to operate in a resourceful state if I help you? Just because I'm able to doesn't mean I should, right? And that's the biggest difference, right? So let's talk about the resourceful state. What is the resourceful state? In the brain neuroscience world, the resourceful state is a mental and emotional condition in which an individual feels empowered, confident, and capable of assessing their skills, knowledge, and ability to be able to handle challenges and achieve their goals. It's exactly what it sounds like. The state of mind where you are able to be resourceful, that if you need to do something for you, that you're able to do so in a calm and, strategic manner, where you're not operating in a state of anxiety. You're not operating in a state of depression. You're not operating in a state of uncomfortability. You're not operating in a state of guilt. You're operating essentially as your best self. That is essentially all this is, right? So think of the resourceful state is the state where I can be who I am safely and be able to give my abundance of resources, not my last, not the shirt off my back, okay, a shirt out my closet. That's what it is. I'm not giving you a shirt off my back. I'm giving you a shirt out of my closet that is filled with shirts. And I'm not going to give you my best shirt. I'm going to give you a shirt that I no longer need, that I want to be able to give to you. So a way to understand the resourceful state is by using that analogy. So let's talk about it. So if you're at your resourceful state and you're at a point where you're doing okay, and even if you're not at your premium best, what is the point where you're doing okay, where you're calm, where you're okay? Understand that state, right? Get to know that state for yourself, not just on a surface level, like go deeper, right? What does that look like? What triggers do I need to be at that state? What needs to be in place for me to be that state? And I'm not saying like do this when they ask. This needs to be something you do every day. Reassess what your resource state is and think about, what do I need to be the best version of me? What do I need to accomplish all the things that I'm trying to accomplish? What characteristics need to come into play? What basic needs need to be met? Because we all know that if our basic needs are not met, we cannot operate as our higher selves, right? So what do you need to have in place? Do you need peace? Do you need quiet? Do you need money? Do you need time? Do you need flexibility? What is it that you need? You need to be very clear about that, because a lot of times people have problems setting boundaries because they don't understand the parameters of where they begin and where they end, right? So people stump all over their area because they don't even know where to mark off the territory. And it's so important for you to understand where you begin and where you end so you can set those boundaries safely, right? So, all right. So let's say that you are in your resourceful state. Let's say that you are able to do all the things whenever you want to do it. They need a shirt. Yeah, I got plenty in the closet, right? I'm not giving you nothing off my back. I got plenty in the closet, all right? So let's just, let's assume that. And let's say a friend comes to you and they need something for you and they need you to be there. Here are some questions that you can ask yourself, because when you have that resourceful state and you understand and you define it for yourself, you want to make sure that you protect it like drug money, protect it at all costs. Okay. Right? Like, listen, it is your peace, and I'm not giving up my peace for no one and nobody. All right.
Okay.
Absolutely. So again, just like the questions that Jazzy asked, right? So if you are in your resourceful state and somebody asks for use for something, you can ask questions such as this: if I do this, what is the worst that can happen for me? right? What is the worst that can happen for me? If I give them money, if I got $100 and they need 50, because again, we're operating from a resourceful state. Yes, I have it and I'll have 50 left and it's an even split. But do I need that $50 for something else, right? If they need my time and I'm trying to, in a heavy transition, trying to figure out what I'm doing, right? Do I have that energy to give? What would that take away from me, right? Assess that on a real level. Because one thing I learned recently is that a lot of times the mistakes that we make is not because we're operating in a state where we don't know what we're doing. We're operating in a state of emotion. We're operating in a state of guilt. We're operating in a state of not, I can logically do this for them, but a state of, I don't want to feel guilty, so I'm going to do this for them. That is not resourceful. So you have to ask yourself, is this resourceful for me? Is this helping me? What is this doing for me, right? And if you don't have an answer to that question, it's a no. Okay, it's a no or not yet or whatever, but it needs, you have to put yourself first. And I was actually talking to somebody about this earlier, and it was funny because I was like, this so aligns with what we're talking about, where somebody wanted to stay at her house, right? And she's like, is that selfish? I said, listen, there's a difference between being selfish. We're all supposed to be selfish. We are built to be selfish. Selfish is not a negative thing. Now, what you can be is self-centered. And self-centered is saying, I matter and you don't. We're not saying do that to a full degree, but we are saying use a tank, right? I matter and you are not going to get, like we said, the shirt off my back, but I'll give you one in my closet, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Like yes, and yes.
Listen.
Because
honestly, what am I gaining? What am I losing? And then if it doesn't match, what are some ways that I can support them without running too far away from our resource state? Because we're not saying that it has to be an absolute no. It could be a no, I can't do this, but I can do that. No, you can't stay at my house, but I can help you find resources. No, you can't have any money, but let me help you with a side hustle to come up with the money. It doesn't always have to be cut and dry, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we just talked about able versus resourceful. Are you able, or are you able to operate from a state of, I can just give this to you and I have nothing left? Or are you operating from a state where I have all the resources and I can lend you some, right? The next one is, are you empowering? Are you enabling? Because sometimes you have that one friend or that one family member that comes to you all the time.
All the time.
All the time, right? And they make all the mistakes because you are their safety net. They know that if nothing else, you're going to be there. And it almost becomes a part of where you're a part of their contingency plan. That if this fails, I know I can call so-and-so. Or if this doesn't work out, I know so-and-so has money. I know Jazzy got some money, so I can ask her. I know that Jazzy's the responsible one in the family, so I can count on her to do that, right? So you have to ask yourself, in helping them, am I empowering them or enabling them? So let's talk about what empower means. So empower, by your homie Webster, means equipping or enabling someone equipping someone to take control of their life. Heavy on the equipping someone to take control of their own lives, make their own decisions, and act on their own behalf to achieve their goals or improve their life, right? So then you have enabling. Enabling refers to the actions or behaviors that unintentionally support or encourage another person's negative or self-destructive behaviors, preventing them from facing their natural consequences of their actions, and it can actually hinder their ability to develop responsibly and have autonomy, meaning that you are taking away their opportunity to learn. You are taking away their opportunity to grow. You are taking away their opportunity to actually feel the negative emotions that are required to make an educated, right decision. Absolutely. Don't take that away from them. Some people need to fall on their ass.
Yes. I always say you have to don't interfere with karma. Do not interfere with karma, because
Listen.
like I tell you, you will be part of, you interfere with it, you get you start to get the rain. Okay. That's when
Listen.
the storm starts coming all up on you because you don't
Mhm.
interfere in something that wasn't meant for you. Now
Mhm.
you got to repeat the cycle that you already know.
Exactly. Taking on that karma. Yeah, like, no, that's yours. That's yours. Like, yeah. And that's why you sit in your resourceful state and you say, I'm good. I'm working on me. I'm working on being a better me. And this is where I stand as the lighthouse. And I can give you this, but I'm not moving. I'm not holding your hand. I'm not walking with you. You're going to have to walk alone. And that's where it gets hard, because especially if you're someone that's a nurturer, it gets hard, right? So you basically macro-managing versus micromanaging. Macro-managing is managing from afar and letting, giving people the tools that they need. Like Tanya said, she likes having tools. People love tools. Give them the tool and let them do what they need to do. You can help guide them with goal setting. Sometimes people know the what, but they don't know the how. Maybe you can give them a way to help them create better goals, to help them assess a situation. Maybe you can help them with changing their limiting beliefs, change their negative beliefs that they may have for themselves that may be stopping them from doing what they need to do for themselves. Maybe you can be the one to change that narrative for them. Maybe you can provide resources. No, you can't stay with me, but here's the number to a place where you can stay. No, you can't get any money from me, but here's from someone that can give you some money that is not me. You're still helping him. You're still fulfilling the original purpose, but you're basically delegating. You're basically saying that I do not have it in my resourceful state right now because it's going to take too much from me to help you. So let me give you other avenues that you can help yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't, sometimes we have to really emphasize that I want to help you help yourself, because I'm doing you a greater service by helping you help you, right? So then in the brain category, what Jasmine was talking about is the questions you ask. Those questions are called meta model reflection questions, right? So basically, you're going to ask some different questions that are going to help them draw their own conclusions. For example, if they come to you and they say, I'm just not happy with my job, you can help them clarify the problem and say, well, what specifically about your job makes you unhappy? That is an essay question that helps them reflect, helps them think on their own. That is you not giving them all the answers and empowering them with questions that will help them reflect on a level so they can catch the answers on their own. You can also help them identify any desired outcomes. I want a better job. Okay. The meta question would be, well, what does better look like? What does better look like to you? What needs to be in place for you to find a better job? What qualities would this job have? Because guess what? 9 times out of 10, somebody that you have enabled for years, they probably don't know the answer to the question and they're waiting for you to answer it. So now you can set the stage for them to be able to answer that question for themselves. You can challenge their limitations. And you can say, I can't find a job that I love that pays me well. And then you can ask something like, well, what makes you think that's not possible? How have you explored all potential opportunities? And notice that the trend here is keeping the questions open to where they have to provide an actual answer. No yes or no, no true or false. Right. It needs to be an actual answer to make them think, to make them actually reveal what work they have done or haven't done, right? And then you can also investigate any generalizations they may have. They can say, man, I'm trying to get a job, but all the good jobs are taken. All of them? Yeah. Have you checked every possible job listing or industry that interests you? Right? Then it's like, well, no. Well,
well, I didn't think about it like that.
What's the next step?
What next?
Think about all that.
I didn't get that far. Okay.
Exactly. And you can ask them questions that they can think on their own. And basically, you're setting the habit of them to be able to build rapport with themselves by answering those questions, by finding solutions on their own, rather than them just depending on you automatically. You can also specify their actions. I need to do something about this job. Okay, well, what specific acts or steps can we take to be able to find that job or help you with your career? And you can also help them. I don't have what it takes. Well, what specifically are you lacking? Let's talk about it. What are you lacking? What can I do for you? My favorite question is, how can I best support you on finding out what you need help in? Ask those reflection questions, right? And they say, oh, but I'm afraid to do XYZ. Why are you afraid? Tell me why you're afraid. Help me understand why you're afraid so you can help understand for yourself, because essentially you are teaching them to ask the questions that they should already be asking themselves to clarify whatever problem that they may have. So they're going to build rapport with their own brain and build that self-trust within themselves to help them be able to solve the problem on their own. You can help them dissect the problem, consider the possible options, and help them identify the actionable steps from your post. As Jazzy said, while being grounded where
Yes.
you are at your full resourceful state, you can have them answer their own questions to help them get the answers that they need on their own. And you can be the guide without holding their actual hand. All right.
And they'll feel so much better after. There's so
They
many
will.
times it's like it's one of those things that when you get people to actually sit with themselves, they appreciate it so much more later because you actually gave them a chance to sit with themselves because they didn't take the time. Sometimes coming to you might be the opportunity and their only opportunity without them knowing to actually sit with themselves and figure out what the heck they want. What do I want? What do I need? You know, because otherwise, the minute they leave your presence, they got to go to this one, they got to go do that, they got to do all these other things. They're not sitting with themselves. So it's a lovely little hidden gift to just sit with yourself, to
Yeah.
what it is that you want and how you're able to best get there. Because no one can answer it better than you, right?
That part. And they got to learn to do that, right? Because when you always jump in and you help people, you're taking away that opportunity for them to do that. Because we all know, we're adults here. We all know that we had to grow through some things. We had to be in a position where it's like, dang, I can't count on nobody else but me, you know. And not saying that it has to be that, but regardless of whether that was negative in between, having that conversation with yourself on what you actually want and what makes sense for you is crucial. And if you are that person that constantly goes and saves that person, that constantly goes and saves the day, whenever they're running short, you know, you making sure you're filling the gap. People need to fail sometimes, and you can help them fail safely, but they still need to fail. You can't save everyone, especially if you are in the process of working to save yourself, which goes back to that resourceful state. Do you have the bandwidth energy wise? Do you have the bandwidth mentally? Do you have it emotionally to invest in other people? Have you adequately invested in yourself? It's an honest question. And then if the answer is no, tell them you can't help them. If they can't answer their own questions that you're asking them, that means they have not done the work to actually try to help themselves. And you weren't their last resort. You were their first. You don't want to be someone's first resort, right? Because you deserve better than that and they deserve better for themselves.
Amen to that. Okay. Yes.
You're so silly.
I know, but it's so true though. It is really true. Like you have to let them have the space to do their own self-discovery.
Yeah. And then I forgot one. I'm sorry. So the last one is to set your availability limits. You do not have to be available 24/7. Every business in the world has operating hours for a reason. Why? Because it is not feasible for them to operate 24 hours a day. People should not be able to call you at 2:00 in the morning with their random thoughts, right? And you have to give them that space to say, look, we could talk about this, but only during this time, or only when I have the bandwidth. When you understand your resourceful state and say, I know my energy is at its max, right? You can talk to me now. But if I'm in a position where I'm not feeling good, be okay with saying no and say, I don't have it for you right now, right? And then also give them a gradual release of their responsibility. Start helping them and then let them fly.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And now on the other flip coin to that too is like there's sometimes and this all may fall in the the parameter of, what if this is what you want to do? Right? You want to help people. You want to be there. You want to be a vessel. There's some of us who don't want to be a vessel. Some of us are like that. I don't think that's my calling. Like I'm here, but I don't think that's what I want to do. And so I think when you start getting into understanding, okay, what is it that I want to do, and how do I detach from this stigma or this persona that now is attached to me? How do I detach from it? How do I move into a space where I'm able to help, but I don't really want to. I don't want to do it this way. And so for me, on a spiritual note, again, everything is closely similar to our to the brain as usual, because they're one and the same. Honestly, we're all energy, and so truthfully, it's just one of those things. But for me, I measure everything by energy, like everything. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you are trying to detach from someone else's stuff that you don't necessarily want to take on, even though you are helping them, is to assess the mess, is what I call it. And so essentially, when you are assessing the mess, you are assessing the mess both within you and what someone else is coming with, right? Because you may have your own trauma response bonding that you may be doing, and you may be acting out of that whole I want to help. I have to. I have to do this because this is what I've always done. And so you might have this old soundtrack of your subconscious playing that I have to do this because this is what I'm supposed to do because this is what I've always done. And that soundtrack is going. And because it's going, when someone comes to you with this chaotic situation, this chaotic mess, and you know the person, sometimes you don't even know the situation. You don't even need to know the situation because that person calls you and you like, you already know. Let me just number. You'd be like, oh, okay. So you assess the mess. One is, do you have the mental capacity to handle what that person's about to give to you? And as Nana was saying earlier, do you have that space? Is your cup filled up? You can only give what you have. So if your cup is filled or not filled with anything, you can't give what you don't have. So you have to assess, what is it that this person is going to give me? And do I have the capability to go on and give it to them? Do I have the capability? Do I have the energy? Because energy is transferable. You ever get off the phone with somebody, you had a great day, and then you get off the phone, now you yelling at the cashier, now you mad at the people in front of you, like, just move. Like, that's me. So, you had to be talking to myself here. So, but you have to be mindful of the energy that you are also absorbing. So assess the mess. Make sure that that chaotic person or situation or whatever the case is something that, one, you have that capacity to handle. Now, let's say you picked up and you didn't even assess the mess. You didn't assess the mess. Now you into some mess. Now you on the phone and you like, and now it's one of them things where it happens in slow mo, where it's happening and you're like, dang, like I knew I knew, but it's too late because you're already in. So you got to be committed. The next thing is you set that expiration. I give everything an expiration. Everything, like my tantrums, my moments, and when I have other people's stuff that's on my plate that should not be on my plate. And so you want to set that expiration, because how much energy do you want to devote to this? How much energy do you have? What does your energy bank say you have? Are you are you in the negative in your energy, or do you have some, a little surplus you can get a little bit? Set those expiration dates and times for yourself. Someone's coming at you with all this chaotic energy and they're like, I got all this stuff going on and I don't know, and this and that, and it's one thing after the next, and there's no positive in that. The positive might be maybe rest, right? So what you need to do is say, okay, I'm only going to be on the phone for 30 minutes. This person only got 45 of my time, and that's all I can give. And you set that time in your mind, whether you write it down, a little sticky note, little on your notes, whatever. Write it down so that that is your time. Set a timer, whatever. Set that, because you want to be true to that, and you don't want to deplete yourself trying to complete someone else. It doesn't make sense, and it's not helpful for you. And then it also puts you in that space of always being that go-to. Oh, I know they're going to pick up. Oh, I know they're going to solve my problem. And when you're trying to detach from that, you have to put yourself in a situation that says, okay, this is all you got. If this is all we're going to talk about, okay, cool. I have 30 minutes and then I have to do this, or I have something else to do. Because now you're putting these protective barriers around your time, your energy, and your space. And that's how you protect your peace. And now you're not taking that on and absorbing it and then passing it on to the next one. Now you're not mad at everybody else after the fact. You have to make sure that you're taking into account what you're doing and how much of the energy that you're taking in, so that you're not transferring something negative and bringing your own vibe down in the process, right? The third thing is it's the same as the first we mentioned earlier, that mini assessment. Still take that assessment, right? Still take stock of if this person, because they're going to come to you with all the problems. Okay, they're gonna tell you, they're gonna come with everything.
Right.
And it's not that you don't want to help them. You have to be, and it's like, it's very understandable that you want to help somebody, but you have to be mindful of how much of the help you're actually helping them with. If they're not helping themselves, if they're coming to you with the same things, if they're not receiving what you said the first 8 times, is it going to be received the ninth? There's certain things that you have to kind of lay out with for yourself of what this person's looking for, because oftentimes they're just looking for someone to listen to them. They don't really want you to solve the problem per se. They want you to validate, and they want you to solve the problem. And that's on them to have to do. And then the last thing is to be a witness. You want to be a witness. And being a witness is something that I have to practice all the time. It is not easy. So being a witness is basically seeing what's happening and literally being a witness to it. So someone's going to come to you with all the things. They're going to be like, I just lost my job. I don't know where to stay. I'm in a messed up relationship, this and that and the third, and it stinks. And you're like, just stay here. Just okay. And now you're in plan mode, because now you got a whole plan laid out. As they find out a problem, you got a plan, because this is what you do. And this is what we're not going to do. Okay. So this is what we're not going to do. So we're going to, instead of rolling out the plan, because we got it, we're going to witness what's happening. Because a lot of times, and as energetic beings, this is what happens is we get into this whole space of having to solve these problems, and then you take it on, and then you forget what you got going on, what manifestations you've got, what things you got in the pipeline, what energy and what space and what vibe and what frequency you need to be on in order to get where you've got to go. Every stop point doesn't mean you have to lower your vibe because someone's coming to you with something that's chaotic or something that doesn't fit, and people are and sometimes you will get backlash. And I'll tell you, like, I've gotten a lot of backlash before because I've set boundaries on my energy, on my time, on my space. But you have to remember that sometimes the people are coming at you in their chaotic energy. When emotions are high, intelligence is low. So they're not thinking clearly. They don't see the full picture. So it's like, yeah, they're going to be all, they're going to be all in it trying to figure out why you're not solving the problem, why you're not doing these things. And sometimes it may cause, by being a witness, it may cause sometimes people to feel away. And that's okay if people feel away, because you want to put them in a space where they're empowered to do the things for themselves and witness and hear them. And being an active listener and hearing what's going on is not necessarily, that may be what all you can give in that moment, because anything more might disrupt what you have going on. And so you have to be mindful of that space. So, there are a lot of times people have, they have their moments, but that's okay. You allow them to have their moments. There's sometimes they might reject, oh, well, you didn't answer me, so I'm not going to, you get drawn back to that. Let me tell you, rejection is protected. Okay, it is okay. It's fine. So, you just allow them and be a witness to that, because it's a neutral. You just hit the neutral button on what's going on. And that kind of helps to detach you, because then they don't keep coming to you, because they're not going to keep getting what they're expecting or what they're used to. Right. So those are some pointers for when you want to detach from that strong friend, or, the energy vampires that may not mean to be energy vampires, but they are what they are. You have to set those boundaries and those limitations for yourself.
Absolutely. And I want to heavily emphasize that a lot of times people don't realize what they're doing. And, social media, all these different things tell us that, people that come out, like, they make it seem like all these people just coming to just suck you dry. But the truth is, the way humans operate, a lot of us operate in a constant state of lack of self-awareness, and a constant state of just trying to figure out what version of right, works for us at the time. It's not always what it feels like, where it's like, oh, well, this person is trying to, take all my time. And a lot of times they don't know. So that's where it comes to the point where you have to say, you, as in you, have to stop feeling guilty. You have to say, I am not available for that. No, I can't do that for you. I don't have the bandwidth. You have to educate people on how to treat you, right?
Yes.
Which goes into my portion of, brain intangible, things you can do. Assess your actions that led to the role, right? Because people don't just decide things. again, like I said, you educate people on how to treat you by what you accept, by what you allow, by the things that you say, oh, it's okay. When you say it's okay, guess what that's telling them? It's okay, right? So obviously that's basically validating their need to come to you because you are okay with it. And even if you don't verbally say you're okay, you can say you're okay with your actions by violating your boundaries, by allowing it. Like I was telling my friend earlier, I'm like, people don't get audacity out of the sky sometimes. A lot of times that audacity that they have is by some things that you either said or did not say. It's by the no's that you not give, the constant, norm that you have set of saying yes to them and no to you.
Mhm.
Them being in a situation where they know they can come to you because you're not going to turn them down. They know that you're a nice person. They know that you love your family. They know that you are the kind of person that is going to normalize violating yourself to please them. So have a conversation, a real conversation with yourself, and ask yourself, what have I accepted? What have I allowed? What have I given permission to, intentionally or unintentionally, that gave them the audacity to assume this role for me? Because if you do not want to be the strong friend and you fell into it as a trauma response, what happened? What happened to make you get to that point where you felt that was an acceptable norm? And what happened and what actions took place where you transferred and projected those feelings to other people that gave them the comfort to ask you that in the first place? Those are the things to ask. Really assess, where, and from a spiritual level, that's where the shadow work comes in. From a brain level, that's where you go talk to a therapist and you tell that therapist, I'm having issues, with violating my boundaries. I'm having issues putting myself first. I'm having issues with residual guilt. I'm having issues saying no. Be specific. Tell the truth. Because sometimes we go to these therapists and we don't want them to think, like, it makes no sense to me how people can go to therapists and worry about what the therapist has thought of them.
Girl.
Like, you know what that therapist is hard.
Let me tell you, I have a friend that was having a problem. They're like, I don't know, and I'm just gonna tell them this part. And I'm like,
Yeah.
girl, I would tell them everything. I would just be like, someone got to take this.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, yes. So yeah, that's so funny because the therapist people are so funny. They were like,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
and
be
it's
on my
like,
good,
tell the
I'm just gonna be
therapist,
on my best behavior. I'm like, that's
right.
my worst
That's
behavior.
like that's the equivalent of having a car that's making, that's broken, and you go to the mechanic, you be like, okay, the sound ain't that loud. No, tell the mechanic the sound is loud. Tell the
Yeah.
mechanic that when so they know what to fix, because guess what? What's going to end up happening is the cost is going to rise. If you go to a mechanic and you tell the mechanic, oh, well, it's not that bad. Okay, but then they're driving, they're seeing something different. Now there's going to be additional tests they have to ask. Now your problem is going to be prolonged and the results are going to be more expensive. Same thing with a therapist. If you do not tell the therapist the truth, then your results are going to take longer to achieve. You're going to have to go through extra stuff. It's going to cost you energy. It's going to cost you time. But most of all, it's going to cost you extra money because now they got to ask all these extra questions because you won't tell the truth. Be truthful with them. Be truthful with yourself. And be honest about how you got there. Be honest about the things that you accepted. Be honest about the things that you have normalized violating about yourself. Be honest with yourself. Hurt your own feelings and be okay with it, because guess what? Those hurt feelings are going to be the things that are going to catapult you to be feeling better, because the people negate like the power of negative emotions. The negative emotions are refining emotions. Those are the emotions, the guilt that you're going to feel about yourself, that you've done this all these years, the anger you're going to feel, the depletion. That is important because that's going to help you refine what you don't want to feel anymore. You have to feel those things so you can know, okay, let me put these steps in motion, right? So I can know that I don't want to do that again, right? So the next step is to check your self-estimate. We always operate at the level of our self-estimate. I'm going to say it one more time for the one time. We always operate at the level of our self-estimate. So 10 times out of 10, right? If you are doing things that violate you in the name of someone else, you're doing it because you don't have a good estimate of your worth. You have not deemed yourself as someone that is worth protecting. And again, I'm saying this as somebody who is going through it right now, where I'm doing a constant, review of my self-estimate, because I'm like, why did I not feel like I was worth protecting in that time? Why did I feel like I was not worth, saying no to that person? What about me is it that I hate that I am okay with violating myself on a normal basis? What is it about myself that I feel like I should not fight for that person? Because guess what? If somebody did something wrong to your friend, you're ready to fight, right? You're like, oh, not my friend. No. Why we don't have that same energy for ourselves? And 10 times out of 10, it's because you have not reached where you need to be on your self-estimate. You have not deemed yourself worthy enough for the trouble, right? Because like she said, that stuff is hard. This is not an easy process.
Oh, it's not hard. It's not easy. Let me tell you, when you have to stand in your own way. You have to stand in your way in order to get out of your way. And there's just no way around it. And Marcia said, my problem as a mentor is this. I try to teach people chapter, baby steps. Then they think they already know the book, of course. Or they don't know what they don't know, naturally. But when I attempt to show or teach them what they don't know, the response is, I already know. And and I have so many people that are like, oh my God.
It's ego. It really is.
Yes, it stems back to the person not being willing and wanting and ready. Remember those 3 questions. Is this person ready to hear it? And when you get that, this is the answer. They're not ready to hear it. They're not ready to hear all that. They don't want that accountability. Are they ready to hear from you? Because if you're the person that got it all together, they may think you never had a struggle in your life. Okay, you already had it together. You know what I mean? And then because you're put together, because you're in a place to say, hey, this worked for me. Let me see how I can help you. Because you're in that space, sometimes it's perceived as, oh, you I know, we want to be equals now, and it has nothing to do with your experiences. Your life experiences are going to be different. And so everybody can learn from somebody's experience, even if you know or been through some facet of it before. But chances are, and most times, those clients that you have just probably aren't ready to hear what it is that you have to say, because they're not ready to hear and own it up in accountability for themselves. And they don't want to stand in their way. They want the fluff and stuff. And when you have people who only want to be surface, it's very hard to get through to the deep-rooted essence of why something is being what it is. And so for that, I would say you can only meet somebody as deep as they met themselves. So it's not like you're going to be able to, if they haven't done the work to get deep, then you can't meet them there. And so for those people, unfortunately, it's really an onus up to them, because you can't pry and push if they're not ready to actually receive the information or even own up to it at that time. So I would say that just, kind of follow their lead, probe, do your questions.
So vetting procedures, man. That's why I have vetting procedures now, because people love the way
you have to. So you have to vet those. You have to vet the people, because if they're not willing to go to the depths to figure out them, then it's gonna be very difficult for you to actually help them along in their journey, because it's their journey.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing too, especially with business, is that because you're going to have people that come to you for various amount of reasons. And a lot of times we look at people as if they are these people that are ready to learn just because they're interested. And especially when you're doing something where it's like knowledge based, that's not always the case. Some people, I call it checklist progress, where it's like they just want to go to somebody because they want to make it look like they're doing the work. Right? They want to make it look like, and it's going to apply to anything, where sometimes they will come to you even for personal advice, because they make it want to look like they're doing the work, that I'm doing the steps. Like you're just a step in the process to make them feel better about themselves. They don't actually want to be better, because that's another thing too. And that's a whole other episode talking about change and when people are truly ready for change. There is a whole process before the process. And that is with business, personal, it does not matter. There is a process before the process. There's a process before someone wants to change. People have to, and I say this quote seem like every single show, where people have to feel like the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of change. They have to want to be better because they are entirely sick of being who they are. And that goes into business, that goes into life, into relationships, whatever. No one changes until they change. That's why they say that when you make an honest decision to change, you're already 51% in the process, because there's so much that has to go into the point where you actually decide, you know what, this is no longer okay. Mm-hmm. This is what I want to do. So it's like for you as somebody that is the person that's facilitating that change, you have to be very careful. And like we said, ask the questions, the clarifying questions of asking them open-ended questions, asking questions like, well, have you done any steps before here? Yes or no? Of course they can say yes, because they're not asking approval. But if you say, what steps have you done before you got here? Then it's like, you have some questions to answer. And if you don't know, go back and come back when you're ready. I'm not your first resort. I'm your last.
And the other thing is, ask them what they want out of it. If someone can't tell you what they want out of your time together,
what's your objectives? Yeah.
And what's the point? Then why are we here? Because you want those answers up front, because you also don't want to invest emotionally, and you also don't want to be the one that's giving and giving and giving so much in somebody, and it's not being absorbed. That energy could be rerouted somewhere else or to someone else. So if they can't, I would always start with that end objective is what do you hope to gain from our time together?
Right.
And that will let you know where that person is, and what they say and what they want to do.
Right. And and back to, the brain perspective of doing it away. Because for me, my mindset is, if you don't want to be that person, don't be that person. Don't be it. Just tell them, no, I'm not doing it. Right. Because basically what happens, even if you do it in a careful way, to me, it's like, for me, it's like you're still putting yourself in a position where you can revert back to that person, that your traumatic version of yourself. And I'm like, if I don't want to be that person, if I have decided that me being that person is a trauma response, I'm not going to be that person anymore, because it's going to take, if I'm trying to work to be a new person and I'm having to go back and address you, and it's like I'm trying to take a pause from my growth and accommodate you. It's, for me, I'm like, I'm going to say no. Now, you have to baby step your way to that. Sometimes. But the goal is to just say, no, I am no longer available at all. Like, that's me. I'm like, I'm not available. You can call your mammy. Call TT.
Do what you do. Tell on me. I don't care. Listen, I have found that, the more that I curate my own space of what do I need, I find that people naturally fall off. And I base everything off of frequencies, of course, as I mentioned. So my thing is, if I'm vibing on XM and you're on AM, it doesn't mean we're not vibing. We're just not connecting. And that is okay. Oftentimes it's like that because you're moving at what's aligned to you. And you have to be mindful of that, because everything that you want or everything that somebody needs may not be in alignment with where you're going. You may have been that person before, but you're not that person today. And so you can't downsize or downgrade or have a low vibe after you've already leveled up from a certain frequency, especially if you have a goal or a path where you're trying to get to. So it's like, you have to be mindful of how impactful is this. You can insert yourself without being, you can be impactful without having to insert yourself into everything that someone else is bringing to you. And you have to be mindful of that. And so for me, I look at everything by energy. Like, what am I going to be? Is this depleting me or is this completing me? If after this conversation, I'm going to feel uplifted, okay. And I had to go through, I've literally had to go through my phones and put like plus and negative signs behind names so I could visually work with my mind and work with myself, because it's a training thing. You know, you have to really train yourself to say, okay, if after this phone call, is this person going to deplete me or complete me? What are they going to do? And you have to take, and that those are those mini assessments that you have to take, because it's a lot of it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And when you're in it and when people are coming to you, you know, it's important to say no. No is a form of self-care. No is a proper form of self-care. And it's one where it allows you to actually stand firm on it, stand on business, okay, with your no. Because as Nana said, when you're saying yes to someone else, you're saying no to you. And so you have to be mindful of how that looks in your world, and what worlds are you cultivating? Are you cultivating a tribe of chaotic energy all the time? Or are you, you know, mastering and cultivating a world of peace, you know, of process, of progress? What does that look like for you? And once you start taking stock in that, then you'll know what you have the capability to handle. And you won't feel apologetic about it in the process. You won't need to apologize, because your no is your no.
Yeah. I feel like it just depends on the person, because some people, like, you have some people that have totally abandoned, self-abandoned, right? And
Mhm.
it's like, I feel like everything has a season. So if you are a person that has completely self-abandoned, because that is the thing, there are people that have done so much for other people that they have completely abandoned themselves. So those people, I feel like they need to start out with a hard no. And maybe you can graduate to that. But it's like, otherwise for them, it's like almost like trying to quit living next to a crack house. Because it's like, if you trying to quit and you still got people asking, you're gonna have, you got to have the time, I feel like, to build that momentum, to, you know what I'm saying, to build that energy and
Yeah,
build that self-esteem and build that. And you kind of, to me, this is just me, everybody deals with things in a different way,
yeah,
but for me, I feel like I have to do that uninterrupted, because I know, being honest with myself, I know that I am currently, susceptible to giving in, right? So it's like, let me take some time. And it's just like any addiction, because it's an addiction. At the end of the day, it's an addiction. And
yeah.
like any addiction, you have to have a cold turkey period. And
You
then you can go out. And I feel like the cold turkey period is important to have in the beginning.
cue divine intervention, okay? Because when
Yeah.
you start raising your vibe, right, the good old universe, spirit,
Mhm.
God, whatever divinity you look to, will start divinely intervening on your behalf. Suddenly, you got opportunities where you're being forced out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll be forced into situations where you're like, I ain't never. What is this? And
Yeah.
now you get removed from those situations. And it happens to me so many times that now I'm used to it. I'm just like, oh, where we going now?
Yeah.
That's where it is. But yes, it's like you have those moments, because it's like almost if you take too long, it's like, I done nudged you, I done told you, okay.
Mhm.
And the next thing you know, here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Here's this thing. Here's me stalking Nana. Hey, you know, that's how we roll. So,
Yeah.
it's just like things are gonna happen, and you just have to like it just all unfolds the way it's supposed to. But there's always that divine intervention piece when it comes to your purpose path of what you're supposed to be doing and what you want. You verbalize and say, okay, this is what I want, because I feel like with affirmations, and I know we do the affirmations and we're helping us to gear us up to make sure that we're really in alignment. But the thing about it too is I strongly feel that, and this is me and my mystic self, but I feel like the universe speaks in the language is vibrations, not words. The words are for us and our subconscious and how we process and reprogram ourselves so that we can actually elevate to a place where we need to be. But the universe speaks in response in those vibrations. So when you're vibing at a space that's putting you first, that's saying, okay, I really want more for myself. Okay, I really, this is no longer it for me. Well, now the universe is going to come in and say, oh, okay, okay, test. And then, and then you have now these new opportunities where there's a response to that. Whether it's an opportunity or job, whether it's a business opportunity, a new friend, a new connection, whatever it is, it comes alongside that. And so you do have to have those moments where you make it up in your mind that this is what I want to do. And then of course you're going to get tested along the way to make sure you're you're still in alignment with that. You mean it, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah, I see both, right? So it's like I'm not, yeah, I see both. I feel like people need to take time to clarify, to
You
know
do.
what it looks like. And so that's what I wanted to talk about is the clarification period. I feel like the first step in it is to like assess your actions, figure out what went wrong, right? Figure out the foundation of where you are and who you are, right? And then go into the part where you're actually implementing. But to implement, you need to understand what it is that you're implementing, because I feel like people need to take time to clarify what their needs are, to clarify where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, where your triggers, where your negative triggers, where your positive triggers before you go out. You have to practice before you go in the field. That's just me.
Yep.
Like because I'm a big believer in both, right? Like you have, the spirits, but you also have human limitations. We're divine spirits with human limitations. And what I'm talking about is more so addressing the human limitations that we have, that we are creatures of habit, that a habit is not broken in one decision. A habit is broken over time. You have to baby step these things. And a lot of times you're not going to do those habits until you understand what you're doing them for. You have to have a solid why. You have to understand exactly and clarify exactly where you are, exactly where you need to go. So the steps that I have for that is what they call future pacing. Future pacing is essentially visualization, right? Where you visualize what your life is going to look like once you have assessed, the things that you need to change and the things that may have went wrong. What does right look like? Yes, you know what's wrong, but do you truly know what right looks like? And I feel like a lot of times where we fail, is that, and this is me because I'm going through this right now, is I wasn't specific about what I want. It's like I'm specific about what I don't want. And a lot of times we're talking law of attraction and momentum, where you're constantly thinking about what you don't want, what you want to allow, what this is that. You're giving it energy, right? Because like you said, the subconscious mind and spirit, whatever, they do not look at the words. They're looking at, like the intent. And I just focus on negative, 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 negative. This is what I don't. This is what I don't want. That's what I don't want. You're basically setting the momentum of don't. So you have to get clear about what you do want. This is what I want. This is what I'm speaking into my life specifically, because I've done a lot of things vaguely and it never works for me. I got to be specific, or I'm going to backtrack. I have to know. Just like, for instance, I used to be a energy drink addict. It wasn't until I had something that I could hold on to and say, energy drinks give me hives, so I can't eat. I was so thankful for those hives because I couldn't quit no other way. But now that I have something that is direct, that is like, okay, energy drinks that I can correlate it to mentally, that can say energy drinks hives. No, I have that. So now I can easily be like, nope, look at those energy drinks and no, it's going to give me hives. So no, right? So the same thing I feel like with future pacing, if you understand, you get to know and fall in love with the version of yourself that you want to be. If you don't want to be that strong friend and you want to be the balanced friend, you want to be the person that is a healthy friend, right? You have to understand what that healthy friend looks like. Take a pause from friendship. Not necessarily saying I can't be a friend anymore, but take some time to yourself so you can hear yourself without distraction, without being tempted, to understand and say, this is what I want, right? And so with the future pacing, basically what you're doing is you're visualizing what the future should look like. You're engaging all 5 of your senses. You're saying, this is what I want to see. This is what, what I want to feel. This is what I want to hear myself say. All of those different things to visualize who it is that you want to be, right? And then you're going to give a good definition of your desired outcome. This is what you want from yourself, right? And say, this specifically is what I want. I want to be able to say no without guilt. I want to be able to say no without my nervous system reacting negatively, right? Then you have to kind of just take some time to just relax, because with the subconscious mind works best when you're not overthinking. The subconscious mind works best when you actually let go. That's like a popular myth that we feel like we got to go hard and this, that. The subconscious mind works best when you have the picture in your mind and you have the outcome and you commit to the outcome and you just let the steps be, right? So it takes work to commit to that outcome. It's not something you just wake up and do. So you have to be very clear on what you want, then relax and give it time to allow it to happen, right? And then you have to incorporate some action steps to support the visualization that you created. What are some ways that you can say no comfortably? Baby step your way into it. You may not be able to go in and just be like, hell no. Hell no is a process. You may have to go in and say, no, be realistic and understand what you're going to have to go through, right? And then you have to kind of think about what the experience is going to look like and kind of predict what's going to happen. Okay, my nervous system may not be good on this, for a while. So what are some ways I can calm myself down? What are some things that I can tell myself? Because I feel like with change is so much more complicated than society says that, oh, you make a decision and you change. No, your body's going to fight you because you're basically telling your body that what was okay is now not okay. So your body is always working in your good, and your body, being the human that you are, is going to resist. So you have to think about that ahead of time so you can get around it and give yourself that great space for grace and say, okay, body, I know you're going to resist. So here's some things we're going to do when you resist. Body, I know you're going to want to say yes. So here's some ways, and let's clarify the reasons why we should say no. Body, I know that this friend has been my friend for a long time, and I have normalized this as a integral part of my life. But here is reasons why that should no longer be true. You have to give yourself basically a trampoline to jump off of. You have to be realistic and know that this is not going to be something where it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to do. No, it's a process, right? So then the biggest thing is being present. Don't worry about the next. Don't worry about whatever. Just give yourself 30 minutes a day if you have to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to focus on my visualization. I'm going to focus to think about what my life should look like. I've tried a lot of things in life. This is the only thing that has worked for me because I to be clear on my why, and I have to baby step things and just find ways to apply it. Build your failure tolerance, build your risk tolerance, be able to communicate those things. Practice in the mirror what you're going to say. Practice saying no to yourself, which brings us to my last point of role playing. Practice being the person that you want to be in real life, right? Understand your role by the future pacing, but you put your role into place by practicing. Be in a position where you slowly get your way up to where, okay, I can kind of come out of this cocoon a little bit and expose myself, but you have to be honest with yourself and really know what you're ready for, because you have to understand that this is a process and you're not supposed to get it right the first time. You're not, and you're not going to, and it's practice. Like Naomi just said, it's literally exercise for the mind and soul. You have to practice what you want, because the first thing that your brain is going to do when you tell it things, it's going to look for confirmation. You have to build that rapport and say, okay, brain, yes, this is what we're doing. Matter of fact, we're going to stand on business, brain, and we're going to say no to this small thing. We're going to say no to small things first to build your tolerance, right? If small things, and when I say small, I mean small. If you go to the store and that convenience clerk want to give you a receipt, damn well you don't want the receipt, say no, I don't want the receipt, right? If you go get your nails done and damn well you don't like the way she shaped your nails, tell her, I do not like the way you shape my nails. Those small things can build you up to the big things. Role play. Find ways, avenues, and reasons to put yourself in a position where you can be that person that you want to be. Small no's lead to big hell yeses, right? Say no constantly. Make no a habit, and no will be natural. The goal is for it to be a natural habit. The goal is for you to build it to where the unfamiliar becomes familiar, and then the familiar becomes a norm, and then the norm becomes a lifestyle. That is the goal, right? So build that tolerance by small decisions. Build that tolerance by really being aware of who you're trying to be and how you're going to be that person. And also build it by standing firm and finding new ways to stand firm in small things that may not have as big of a risk, so that when the big risk things come, that it's comfortable. It's nothing. It's natural. I got me. The universe got me. We working together collaboratively.
Absolutely.
To get where we need to go.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to get that part. So yeah, Naomi said resistance increases strength, and it'll be uncomfortable at first.
It's always uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. I mean, it is. That's my life right now. Everything is uncomfortable. Everything is uncomfortable. I'm like, okay, is this the norm? It's uncomfortable. It really is uncomfortable for me. Everything is uncomfortable. I'm going through a major shift myself, and it is one of those things that is super uncomfortable, but at the same time, I know it's necessary. Yeah. One of the things that I have learned is that when you default to the old version of yourself because it's comfort, you've emerged as this higher version of yourself that you have to get to know. And so when you're doing that and standing firm in who you are now, that old comfort, it doesn't work. Those comforts are not comforting anymore. They're just not fitting. And it's like, and I was talking to Naomi, I think earlier, and I was like, the default isn't defaulting. Like something is wrong with my default button. Like I can't go back to what I was, what I'm used to. And when you're like that, when you feel that, it's very it pushes you more to stand firm and stand on business of who you are. Let your no's be no's. Let your boundaries be your boundaries, and be open to receive the things that are meant for you to receive. Being present. This dance with the universe is what I call it, and it is an intricate dance, and it requires balance, but it also requires you being open to things that you're not comfortable with yet, because it is an exercise. If you're not practicing if you're not practicing following your gut and going with your gut, then it's something that it would be harder for you to enable and to keep going and to learn and to discern as you move through life. So it's one of those things where you just have to show up, practice, and know that even when you dance, you may trip. It's okay, but you get back up, you get back on beat, and you do what you do, and it's fine. But you just want to give yourself grace through that part of it too, because otherwise you find yourself stuck. And so you don't want to revert, because reverting is actually going to hurt you more than actually trying and standing forward to this new version of what you need to be and who you need to be, if you're trying to detach from whatever stigma you had in the first place.
And that's the thing, is just being realistic and knowing that this is gonna suck, right? This is not, you're basically telling yourself, this version of you is not okay anymore, right? And that's hard. There's a whole layer of things that happen just with saying that, like, and it's not even saying that you yourself is not okay, but you're saying the actions and habits that you are exhibiting at this season it's not complimenting your growth, right? And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially if this is the way that you've always been. Because you're basically telling yourself that if you're 35, these 35 years, I've been doing the wrong things. And I'm using quotations here because, wrong is subjective. But another day, another topic. But you're basically telling yourself that this was not the way I should have done it. I have not, done things the correct way all these years. And let's be real, it's hard. And then, like she said, once you get to that point where it's, that you're making progress, then you enter the void where you're like halfway, where you're like right between the old you and the new you. And then it's like, I don't know what to do. And you don't want to go back there, but you also don't really know how to get there, right? So realistically, that's what the process is going to look like. So that we like to be honest about these things, because it is important for people to know this, to go into it with the right expectations, to understand that it's not going to be this thing that it's going to be like, oh, I don't want to be the strong friend anymore. And I'm not. Yeah, but that takes a process. You have to trust two people. Trust yourselves and trust whatever higher power, because a lot of times people just think they do one or the other. They either trust themselves without the higher power, they trust the higher power without themselves. You both have to be working collaboratively, and you have to acknowledge, like, I'm going to make mistakes. Like she said, you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. You're going to, and that's okay. So that's why you kind of get ahead of things. And you you try to plan. I was reading something today where it was saying that a lot of times we mess up because we plan and we make decisions based off emotions and opinions and predictions. And we forget the accuracies. The accuracies are, this is hard. The accuracies are, we are flawed beings, and then the accuracies are that this is you basically turning yourself into a different version of you. So there's going to be a lot of steps, a lot of series, that you're going to have to face. But we are also here to say that you can do it. This is not a 2-week thing. This is not a 21-day trial period. This is a year's commitment. Okay. Yeah. I've been at it for years, and I'm still fighting for my life. Okay. We're saying this as people that are in the trenches, honey. I got a toe out, but I'm in.
Listen, you have to have
standing on business though.
You gotta have girl. Look, you know I'm getting older, cold. Don't make me laugh.
I'm
Don't make me
sorry.
laugh.
I'm sorry. The toe was like,
Cut it out.
that's all I got.
You got to give yourself grace through grief, because there are parts of you that you're going to shed as you emerge, and it's just inevitable. And there's no right or wrong. The mistakes, they may be raw, they may be ugly, but this is why the work is necessary, right? So that you can actually make those beautiful mistakes, because I don't believe in accidents, and truly I don't really believe in mistakes, but I feel like there are opportunities of what you can learn. And so there's a beautiful something. There's always a silver lining somewhere. So whenever you say someone can't do something or something's horrible, there's always going to be, well, what if it's great? It's like, well, what if I fail? What if you fly? Okay.
Period.
So, it's just, you just got to change the mindset on it. And once you do that, really everything else follows in its footprints and where it's supposed to fall. Less is more when it comes to trying to control an outcome, because your surrendering is actually the most powerful thing that you can do. So you can't be responsible for how someone responds if you say no, if you set a boundary, but you can be responsible for how you are and how you manage yourself. And managing you is a lot easier than trying to manage someone else, because they're unpredictable. And so at least if you're sure of you and you're sitting with you, you know what you have the capability for, what to handle, what not to handle, what you want to deal with, what you don't want to deal with, how you want to respond. Remember, sometimes your no response is also a response, and you don't have to react just to respond. You can actively listen and allow someone else to come to their own conclusions for whatever it is that they got going on. Because if it weren't for you, right, if you weren't there, who would it be? It'd be someone else, or they'd be forced to do it themselves.
Exactly.
So guess what? Don't, sometimes I think, sometimes like, they need me. No.
Like,
No.
it's not millions of other
No.
people and thousands of resources for every topic on earth.
No.
No.
Yeah.
It ain't the flex you think it is.
No, it's not. So, be mindful of that too, because, your mental and your peace should be your priority.
Absolutely. And it's just a matter of just normalizing saying yes to yourself. You normalize, find new ways, like really explore new ways to say yes to yourself to make it your norm. But yes, thank you all for tuning in, staying with us, and engaging in our meaningful conversation tonight. And we
Right.
hope this was fulfilling. We hope we offered something that you could use, because I feel like this is a topic that a lot of people, deal with, that they, have issues, overcoming. So this is very important. If you missed any part of this, feel free to hit the replay. We are on YouTube, guys. We are building everything because, as we discussed before, this wasn't supposed to be an official thing, but it kind of led there. So bear with us as we become more active. But the goal is to get more active, to be able to engage with you guys outside of the show. With that being said, also make sure that you follow us on YouTube, but also make sure you like our Facebook page, Elevate and Relate. We will be having conversations in between the conversations about this topic, upcoming shows, and that's where you can get all the scoop and all the behind the scenes footage.
Yay.
Yes. So make sure you like the YouTube and make sure you like our Elevate and Relate page. We appreciate you guys, per usual, for tuning in. We had some glitches today. Our link did not post. We found that out as soon as we went live. So I tried to repost it as many places as I could. But yeah, it's technology, just don't be on my side sometimes. It's fine. We still made it through to do. Thank you for those that tuned in and engaged with us. We appreciate you a lot.
Yes, yes, yes. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yes. Oh, Thursday. So our next one will be on, what day is that?
March 7th at
Yes.
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, and we will put out the topic on the elevator.
Boom, shakalaka.
I had to let her get it out. She was not going to be okay.
I gotta have my moment, okay? I gotta have my little. Unless I say it.
Yes. So Thursday and every other Thursday. So we will be back on March 7th with a new topic. To get the topic, please make sure you're either following us or following the YouTube or following Elevate and Relate page. All right, guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Oh shit.